If you didn't laugh, you'd cry, goes the adage. And especially in times of crisis, satire can be our friend and our comfort. One of the funniest and most outraged columnists and political commentators who has skewed everyone from Michael Gove to Shia LaBeouf and 1,000 politicians and celebrities in between is The Guardian's much garlanded Marina Hyde. Now she's crammed many of her dispatches from the turbulent times of the last 6 years into a new book, What Just Happened, which has turned out to be a very prescient title. I spoke to her early this evening and started by asking her, what has just happened?
Broadly speaking, it's gone quite wrong, hasn't it? I think some free marketeers, people obsessed with the free markets, have turned out not to understand the free markets. I think they've written a lot of pamphlets about them. But I've played quite a lot of Call of Duty, but I don't think I could personally retake Crimea. So there's actually a bit in The Simpsons where the lawyer says to Homer, yeah, don't worry, I've watched an episode of LA Law. I mean, I was in a bar and the sound was down, but I think I got the gist. That, but with the Chancellor.
Now, you have met the Chancellor. You have met Kwasi Kwarteng. What's the cut of his jib?
I've only met him once. He was someone who, all my teenage years, a lot of boys would tell me, oh, he's the most clever boy in our year at our school. He was a sort of mythological creature. And then when I got to university, I met him once and I thought, wow, so this is Bigfoot. Quite disappointing. And now we're all watching it play out. So I don't know, maybe he was just, you know, a lot of Etonian boys' idea of super clever, and when it made contact with reality, now we all have to live in it.
So, but what more broadly do you make of the political class?
Disappointing, Kirsty. It's been quite disappointing for people, hasn't it? Across the board. It's been, I don't think we'd say that we had our best caliber people. Maybe we've been, you know, maybe we've got a skewed idea of who are good politicians, because I think in the 19th century and before, they were pretty awful. And we just have this kind of skewed idea because during the Second World War and after the Second World War, some really amazing people entered politics who'd done incredible things with their lives and made lots of great changes. And then I think the quality of the intake started dropping off, and we're now in quite a parlour state.
And what you're saying in the book and in your conversation is like, everybody goes into politics now to be Prime Minister, and if they're not Prime Minister, that's it.
Yes, and also if they have been Prime Minister, it's totally possible for them to come back. I don't understand this. It's like the Marvel Cinematic Universe. No one dies. You know, Donald Trump's now front runner for the Republican nomination. People are saying, oh, the person who's the bookie's favourite to succeed Liz Truss is Boris Johnson. I mean, no. He should have had a concrete shield built over him and put beyond use.
But you do have a soft spot. But you have a soft spot for Theresa May.
I don't. No, but I don't have a soft spot for Theresa May. But looking back, you start thinking, oh well, maybe they weren't so terrible after all, because the next one is always worse. That people are already looking back affectionately at Boris Johnson, who's not unpacked his furniture yet. He's still got a removal van outside the house.
But do you ever think about yourself, oh, maybe I'm just being too cynical rather than sceptical?
I think on the basis of today, Kirsty, no. If anything, I've been kind.
So do you think that in some way that you're providing a kind of service to the nation because, you know, you're stopping riots and so forth, because they see satire as a way of actually having an outlet? I
don't think I've stopped any riots. Somebody actually said in this country that we don't have revolutions, we have jokes. Which I think we do have a strong satirical tradition, but satire's never changed anything ever materially. But I do think it provides a balm for people.
And because you're such a cinephile, the way that you conduct your column is you make associations between films, which is, people love that though. They love that kind of, I get that now. I always
think about things really associatively, and I tend to see things as reminding me of something else, and I think, or something that happened in politics remind me of a cricket match or something else. I also think it's better to talk about politics maybe filtered through the prism of things that people actually like, I don't know, football or movies or pop music or just really anything other than politics.
But you do put targets on certain people's back. Now, you've got a target on Michael Gove's back. What is it about Michael Gove that just drives you so crazy?
I've forgotten about him. He's yesterday. No, I haven't. I haven't got a... I mean, he's always been quite an amusing character. I mean, his interventions throughout the last 6 years of pure chaos. I mean, I've written a book that was about pure chaos, and I thought by the time it came out, everything would have calmed down. But as it turns out, there's...
But, you know, the man who seems to want to calm it down is Keir Starmer, who, you know, Tonight on Television said it was good to be boring. Well, that's not really very good for a satirist.
Well, I mean, I think people would take the quiet at the moment, but who knows? I mean, I don't know whether. I think if Keir Starmer got into power, he would provide much material for satirists very quickly, because what happens is that once you make contact with reality, things go wrong. It's humans. Humans are driving this machine, and things go wrong, and there's always plenty to write about. I mean, it would be a different thing to write about.
But do you think you're actually quite addicted to politics, really?
Oh, I think we've all become like shackled to this. It's like being chained to a lunatic. We've been chained to a lunatic for the last 6 years.
And then have we become addicted to crazy then? Because we're now addicted to crazy. We're addicted to high drama.
I think we are, and there's that dopamine hit, and it's never been calm, and people can't switch off to some extent. I mean, I spoke to a friend and he said, I feel quite bad when Trump was in power, saying, I look at my phone and if he hasn't said anything mad for about an hour, I think, oh. And you think, no, I don't want you to say terrible things, but there's a slight part of you that yearns for kind of this drama. I think things have been really shifted off their axis. I don't really see how we bring them back in a lot of ways. And
so do you worry for the state of politics in the sense of being a political democracy, for example?
There was this poll a few weeks ago that found that 61% of 18 to 34-year-olds believed that Britain could do with a strong leader who didn't have to bother with Parliament or elections. I think something much bigger is happening under the surface, and politicians really need to pull their finger out and deal with people's actual real-life problems.
Marina, thanks very much indeed.